redistricting the Pasadena Unified School District, how that might impact Altadena and Sierra Madre. Also, how your thrift store purchase could help a local homeless family. All this next on a special edition of CCN Crown City News. Your news, your neighborhood, seconds away.
The Pasadena chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated would like to invite you to the 24th Annual Fashionetta Scholarship Luncheon and Fashion Show, where we'll be honoring Miss Lena Kennedy as Mother of the Year.
After this event, we will have awarded more than $100,000 in scholarships since the year 2000 alone. Proceeds from the event also support our numerous community service activities, which include our annual health summit. At that event, we provide more than 400 residents with free testing and screenings in the community. So come on out and join us for a fun-filled day of friends, food, fashion, and fellowship.
The event will take place at the Glendale Hilton on Saturday, May 12th.
Hi everyone, thank you for watching CCN Crown City News, your neighborhood. I'm Sunita Joshua Madison. On this special edition of CCN Crown City News, live interviews with people you'll want to meet. We start with the Pasadena Unified School District and some of the changes local schools are facing. Redistricting is one of those changes that would allow Pasadena, Sierra Madre, and Altadena voters to vote for school board members based on their location. Richard Moon, Vice Chair of the Redistricting Task Force, is here to tell us more about the issues many of you will be voting on in June. Hi, Richard. Nice to have you here.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Now, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're second in command of the Redistricting Task Force.
Yeah, I'm an Altadena resident and pretty much have been my whole life, aside from college. And I own a business that operates in Pasadena, and I've been in the Pasadena Unified School District, my whole school career. My daughter started off in the POSD too, and I've just been very plugged into the community and interested in keeping the district healthy.
Okay. Now, you had just said that your daughter had started out in POSD.
Yeah.
Is she still in the POSD?
She's currently attending a charter school up here in Altadena, primarily because the POSD school that she was attending, Loma Alta, was closed at the end of last school year. And while I can't really blame the district for their actions because they are under a budget crunch, the time leading up to that school getting closed and Burbank getting closed really got my wife and I very involved in all of the political problems that are going on in the district.
That's a huge, burden for your family, and
Yeah.
I'm sure, a conflict for your daughter. How did she handle her school closing? I mean, that's a big deal, and for a family to make that kind of transition to figure out where are we going next.
Yeah, and my wife and I, we're both science majors in college, and so we sat down and looked at all of the POSD schools and all of the other options. We're not huge fans of private school. We both came up through public school, and we kind of believe in the public school model. But at the same time, in looking for what was going to be best for our kids, we kind of went between looking at Norma Coombs and Avison, where she wound up at, and kind of kept our minds open and said, again, what's going to be best for the kid? Mm-hmm. And that's how I kind of look at a lot of things.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess that's the hard part about POSD. A lot of the API scores for a lot of the schools are coming up. We just had one of the teachers at John Muir, Mr. Rustin, who received the Milken Award. So, some positive things coming out of POSD, but people still have this perception of, that might be great, but not for my kid.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there are a lot of great things in the POSD, which is why I think a lot of people get very passionate about things they see going on that could be qualified as not great or just bad ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, a lot of us in this area came up through the POSD, and so we have a lot of connection to it.
So have you seen it? I mean, is it certainly not the POSD then, growing up, or?
It's hard to say because, of course, growing up, I was a student within it, and you have a much different perspective
Absolutely.
on it as a
You don't
as a
see
parent.
the political part of it,
Yeah,
right?
it's a different perspective as a parent whose kid is in POSD. It's a different perspective as a parent whose kid is outside of POSD, which describes my parents and a lot of other people I know. And it's a different perspective as somebody in the area who perhaps doesn't have kids, but is still affected by the performance of the schools and how healthy the schools and which campuses get closed down and which ones get opened. So, yeah.
Well, let's talk about this idea of redistricting, because I know a lot of people are hearing about it and seeing the headlines, but don't really know how it came about. Can you tell us how it came about?
Yeah, it's really this effort is in large part a response to the 2003 California Voting Rights Act, which was passed back in 2003, that both sought to address certain problems that are inherent in at-large election in school districts. Basically, in an at-large election, as a lot of people know, everyone in the entire electorate votes on every seat. So it doesn't matter if it's seat 1 or 3 or 5, everybody votes on it. And while this, in a lot of ways, leads to the entire district having a say in the entire board, it also means that one particular group with enough political power can basically dominate the entire election, because every single seat is being voted on by the same group of people.
So you could have one little region that's very active, and they're the ones that get the vote out. Actually, before coming here, I was hearing about even just the general elections, the national elections, and with the last Obama election, I think we were at 58%, and that was the highest turnout in 40 years, I believe it was. And so you could have 10% of the population coming out, and they are who determines. Yeah, and
it's
even on the board.
It's even worse in that you could have a population that would in terms of proportionality, should have a voice on the board, should have a representative on the board because they represent a significant portion of the population, but they don't have the political power within the entire population to, get their candidate elected to any random seat. And that being said, I'm not an enemy of at-large elections. They like every political system, they have problems. And the 2003 CVRA sought to really kind of address some of those problems. And it was a statewide measure, of course. And it not only encouraged school districts that were using at-large elections to switch over to sub-district elections, but actually made it much easier for groups that felt disenfranchised by at-large elections to sue the districts and cost the districts a lot of money in order to get the election system changeover.
Huh. So now, ultimately the voters will decide, on this measure, but where does the board stand on this?
The board, we on the task force, which was made up of just citizens from the district, there's no employees of the school district or the city council, no members of the school district or the city council on it. It's all outside citizens. We've all taken a lot of pride in the fact that our work has received unanimous votes in every time it's been put up for a vote in front of either the Pasadena City Council, who has a bit of a say in it, or the school board. We were actually tasked originally with putting together the actual language for a charter amendment that would be the legal way that the district would switch over to sub-districts. And then in addition to that, that by the way is what the voters are going to be voting on, is actually changing the city charter of Pasadena, which is what governs the Pasadena Unified School District, so that the school board is elected via sub-districts instead of at large. We were also, in addition to that, tasked with preparing a proposed map of what those sub-districts would be and where the borders would be. And that, while it's an extremely important part of our process, and it's where we've gotten, of course, the most amount of input, which is what we wanted, it's not what the voters are going to be voting on. They're going to be voting on simply whether or not we change the system. We all felt on the task force that it was very important to get the map in place so that people could see what the system that they were voting on would look like. There was a similar effort back in, I believe it was 2000, it was interesting when we looked at the legal language there, because a lot of it was hampered by the fact that there wasn't a provision in the state constitution to allow school districts to switch. So they were like, when the laws become available, we'll do this. But it's widely believed that the lack of any map in that led to its narrow defeat.
Okay, so I know with maps, that's always a tough question, because politicians, if they get their hands on it, will kind of lean one way or the other. But you're saying you're a task force made of kind of regular residents in the community. How do you know the, kind of the area well enough? I mean, you might know your own area, but I guess, looking at the whole map, is there enough representation of all of the areas, enough to determine, to come to a consensus?
And that was definitely the hard part of the task. The task force itself was made up of, let's see if I can remember the actual numbers because it's been a while for me. 3 members that were appointed by the Pasadena City Council, 3 members that were appointed by the Pasadena Unified School District Board, 2 members that were appointed from Altadena by Supervisor Antonovich on the recommendation of the Altadena Town Council, and 1 member that was appointed by the Sierra Madre City Council. And the idea there was to get all of the jurisdictions that are underneath the PUSD to have a voice on the board. So we all came together and very early on agreed that while we were there representing our specific areas, we were not interested in being focused solely on that. That it wasn't going to be a good process if one of us got everything that they wanted, but other people got shafted in the process.
Well, so yeah, I mean, did this come about mostly from people in Altadena and Sierra Madre who basically felt that, their voice wasn't being represented? Is this going to represent them? Is this going to be ideal for them?
I feel, and I was skeptical about the entire process when I went into it. I basically went in and volunteered to be a representative from Altadena, largely because as a resident of Altadena, I'm long steeped in almost the traditional feeling in Altadena that the school district doesn't really pay us much attention. Whether or not that view is entirely valid is another completely separate question, but I was in a zone where most of the campuses that were getting closed in PUSD were in Altadena, and that we kind of didn't have a neighborhood school anymore. And going through this process, it became clear that the sub-districting would allow all of the areas that feel underrepresented right now to have a larger and stronger voice. It's somewhat easy for Altadena to say, well, the school district doesn't pay us any attention right now, because it's entirely easy for someone to say, well, that all the candidates are elected basically by Pasadena. And none of them, there's, I believe, 1 current incumbent who lives in Altadena. But the idea that Altadena votes were counting was, it's always up in the air. And there's a question about Sierra Madre and how much influence they had proportional to, and it was just all, like I said, up in the air and kind of this chaotic thing that led to a lot of bad feelings and feelings of disenfranchisement. And by setting down the sub-districts essentially in stone and saying this portion of the district, elects this representative on the board, you kind of, encourage people to feel that their voice is being listened to and their vote does count.
Now, one of the, conflicts or the critiques of this is, though, that obviously every voter can go out there and vote on this, and there are going to be plenty of parents who, there's a large percentage of parents who have their kids in private school. You yourself, mentioned that your child was part of a charter school, and they have the same vote as the parents who actually this matters to a lot more. What do you say about that?
Well, one of the issues with the at-large election is that exact situation is true right now. That everyone that's covered by the Pasadena Unified School District votes on every school board seat. So the people in San Rafael that, maybe their kids go to private school or maybe they don't have kids, they get the same vote as the parents of the 5 kids that all go to PUSD. And really, I mean, that's the basis of our entire democracy, is that every citizen gets a vote in everything that affects them. And as we were going through this process, we kept reminding ourselves that when we're talking about voters and the voice and proportionality, that we were not talking about simply PUSD parents, and that we couldn't talk about PUSD parents because the people who live down the block from the PUSD parents in a way have as much stake in the PUSD as those parents. They might not have kids, but simply the presence of schools affects property values.
Okay. Now, there's obviously a lot's going to happen in the next few weeks coming up to the election. How can parents stay involved and know what's going on?
We actually, the school district has all the information, all of our minutes from the many, many meetings that the task force ran. We tried to get out as much as we can and get people involved and listen to as many voices as we could. They have all of that information on their website. The school board is actually meeting about the map that we proposed to them tomorrow night.
What do you expect the outcome of that to be?
I'm not sure. It's
Okay.
going to be interesting because I know there's been some concerns raised on the board just in recent weeks about the map that we spent quite a long time really getting into a good state.
All right, well, we might have to have you back on to see what the results are from tomorrow's meeting. Now, that's Tuesday, May 8th.
Yes.
Is the meeting. So I really appreciate you coming out and telling us about redistricting and why it matters to the families out there.
It was my pleasure.
And hopefully we'll see you again.
Great.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Moon.
much.
Well, a local thrift shop and foundation helps struggling families. When Valerie Coachman-Moore from the Lake Avenue Foundation goes on camera with us. You're watching CCN Crown City News, your neighborhood.
If your child is getting behind in school and needs help organizing, reading, writing, or studying, Klein's classes can help. Audrey Klein has been teaching for more than 20 years. Her book, Skills for Student Success, can teach your child essential learning tools. Klein's classes are affordable and conveniently available online. You can view the lessons and educational films anytime.
I've seen children jump 2 reading levels in 1 year. I've proven it over and over again.
Don't let another semester pass without getting your child some help. Visit kleinsclasses.com and get started today. Unleash your inner shark. Sharky Zartman's book, Shark Sense, reveals the 14 life-changing steps you can take today to start reaching your goals. Through her witty yet no-nonsense approach, Sharky Zartman unlocks the lessons we can all learn from sharks.
I use the shark as a symbol for your inner source of strength and power, the part of you that doesn't know the meaning of the word can't.
Stop settling for less and start living with confidence and purpose. Order Shark Sense today at sharksense.org and get in touch with your inner shark.
A local foundation helps kids and families in need, and they do so partly through funds they raise through a local thrift store called All Out Caring, or ACTS. The Lake Avenue Community Foundation's program, supported by ACTS, benefits families, at-risk kids, and the homeless. Valerie Coachman-Moore with the foundation is here live to tell us more. Hi, Valerie. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
Now, tell us about Lake Avenue Community Foundation. What's the mission?
Lake Avenue Community Foundation is in its 11th year. It was founded over 10 years ago by Lake Avenue Church. It is an independent 501c3, which means it's its own nonprofit organization. And its mission is, we say it as to unleash the God-given potential of students and youth and students who are at risk. We really want to focus on academic success, spiritual development, as well as economic success long-term, and helping them to be socially and emotionally healthy long-term.
Tell me a little bit about, so, it started through Lake Avenue Church. What was going on, 11 years ago that they started thinking, you know what, we really need to come together, we need to create this foundation. That's, because there's other programs out there for homeless, there's Union Station for the homeless families. There's other programs, even, as far as thrift stores, there's Goodwill, there's Salvation Army. So why did the foundation need to be created?
That's a really, really good question. We're talking, 2001, essentially, turn of the century. What happens is that Lake Avenue Church is a huge church here in our community, a huge congregation, which is very vibrant, vital, robust, and members in that congregation saw a need in its own community. And one of the things that has happened over the years is that the work of Lake Avenue Community Foundation is really based locally, wherein we like to say, in it for the long haul with students and their families right now from about first grade through college for those of them who go on to college or finish high school. We try to provide a ton of support that helps them make it through life successfully. And the parishioners at Lake Avenue Church, our founding board, for instance, we still have some of those same members with us who are very committed to seeing that difference made in other people's lives as it would be in their own lives. One of the things, let me just say this before you ask the next question, is that we have this value that is very strong with us, and that's a value of mutuality, whereby we really rely upon volunteers as tutors, as mentors, and our premise is that they benefit as much as the students and families that we walk alongside.
Absolutely. Anytime I've volunteered as well, it feels like the dirty little secret is that I've gotten so much out of it.
That's it.
You know, and you grow so much as a person. So absolutely, it's such a good thing for people to be involved in their communities. They get to see the families who you walk along the street and you don't know what someone's backstory is,
right.
And you don't know when someone's struggling and might need a hand up.
And it happens, as you said, on both sides, and we actually train toward that end, that it is beneficial to everyone.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned that this is a faith-based organization,
mm-hmm.
But then it's also a 501c3. How does that work? What does that mean?
How do we navigate? How
Yes.
do we navigate? Well, we are faith-based, and we work with everyone who comes.
Mm-hmm.
That's because, again, though we're not place-based, a lot of the youth, a lot of the families that come are not members of Lake. They may not even go to a Christian church. But our goal is that we make the opportunity available, particularly in our mentoring program, which begins at about middle school, high school, and that's offered. It is optional. It's not required, that a student might decide that they want a mentor. And again, faith is not, we don't proselytize and enforce that, but it is made available in terms of the walk that we do with youth. At the same time, because we engage with students from Pasadena Unified School District, we don't discriminate at all. Mm-hmm. And most of the young people that we see, the students that we see, attend PUSD. Mm-hmm. The premise of the family, one of our programs is STARS, and it was in place prior to 2001, and Lake Avenue Community Foundation decided to partner with this program, and now STARS is one of our flagship programs. Okay. And the parents, we have a very vibrant parent community, and that group of parents really want to see their students succeed. So they come to us, and they are part of our family life, part of what we do. And again, faith-based in our intent because of our genesis, but at the same time, not necessarily an absolute requirement for participation.
Now, you said, these families are very active in wanting to see their kids succeed. Why couldn't they make that happen through just the PUSD programs that are there? Why did they need this other program?
Well, that's an interesting question as well. Very good question, in fact. What we do know, I didn't bring my data, but what we do know that it's often difficult for some students to be successful in PUSD. We find that in poor families, particularly African American, Latino families, that oftentimes graduation rates are not what they should be, mm-hmm. Matriculation rates. And one of the things that we have in place and parents want desperately is our tutoring services so that we help with homework. We're changing that, and I want to come back to that in a little bit in terms of how we are approaching that particular option. But with any parent who has their kid in school, particularly today, there's a lot of support outside of the classroom that occurs, outside of the school day that occurs in terms of tutoring, after-school programs that provide that kind of academic help. Well, we are there to do that for people who might not necessarily want to go out of their community or pay for it differently. We have found a formula that definitely works where we're right there, walking distance for most families that come to us, except in our mentoring program. We have kids all over the country now in different schools, and have over the last 10 years. So in that sense, we are not doing what most families would find themselves doing in any school situation, making sure that students grab the information academically, get their homework back and understand it, be able to go on to the next grade. Let me just tell you a little bit about one of our newest endeavors. I would say that over the would be our third year with our Skills Summer School Program, whereby we're in partnership with Pasadena Unified School District, as well as the Flint Ridge Foundation and ourselves, Lake Avenue Community Foundation, whereby we have held summer school for students who have not necessarily matriculated or who have matriculated with Fs or Ds. And our goal has been, through the summer school experience, 10, 12 weeks, to help them come alive, if you would, around academics and understand that they can begin to get the skills necessary through teachers that we provide.
What's your
to do
secret?
better.
I mean, they go through the whole school year, they have, they're given all this information. What do you do in 12 weeks that they couldn't connect to in the whole school year?
I think it goes back to this whole notion of unleashing the God-given potential, if you would. I think if you look at the inner life of any individual and where the genesis of motivation occurs, okay, whereby one is desirous of change and really trying to build upon what that might be within each individual. We're small. We're not huge and large. We'd love to be larger, and of course we will be, but our one-on-one, particularly when it comes to mentoring, our tutors are there. Kids show up. I've done a bit of the tutoring.
Now, is that just during the 12 weeks, or is that school, the whole year?
It varies. The whole year, during the summer, our summer program, some of those students stay on and become part of our regular program. It's not easy.
No.
Sometimes we're pulling, wands from all different satchels out of our satchels, trying to find the right answer. But we're there. It's small. The level of we try to be present in a real way.
Where kids today, I mean, they might have their parents working who they want them to succeed, but they're busy with their jobs and might not be able to do the hand-holding that you're providing through your mentors. But what if a kid just isn't open to the faith-based aspect of it?
Well,
what if they're like, okay, I can see about this school stuff, but I'm not going to get it through God.
Yeah, but it's not all. What I really want to make very, very, very clear is that that's not our primary lead for every kid. And let me just say that one of the things that's really kind of fun is that because the parents are involved and there's a parent requirement for family requirement for involvement, many times our youth will try certain kinds of things, but unlike in our summer program, in our regular year-round program, the parents are right there. So it's a total community, total village.
Tell us really quickly about one of your success stories that you are just so proud to tell everyone about.
Okay, and I'd also like to make sure I have enough time to tell you about our great event we're having.
Okay.
Coming.
Let's do these 30 seconds on each thing. We only have about a minute to go.
Okay. Generally speaking, we have students at Art Center College, we have students at APU, we have students at PCC, we have students who may not have ever thought that they could go to college, and they're there and they're doing well and they're excited and they're part of who it is that we are. Okay, the other 30 seconds. We have a gala coming up, our second annual gala, and it's on June 15th, and it will be at Noor here in Pasadena. We're really wanting the public to join us and come out and support us.
Is there a website they can go to for more information?
There is a website, lakeavenuefoundation.org, and there will be links there that will take them to our Stars for Tomorrow benefit.
Well, let's have one of your stars come out and tell us directly how this program impacted them. That's what we'd like.
Okay,
Thank you for joining us. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this special edition of Crown City News. Thanks to Richard Moon with the Redistricting Task Force, Valerie Coachman-Moore with the Lake Avenue Community Foundation. Thanks to all of our sponsors, including Southern California Edison, Wink Marketing, and the Pasadena Enterprise Center office building with available space. Thanks also to the CCN crew. They make this show possible. But finally, we thank you for watching CCN Crown City News. Join us each week as we cover the news in Pasadena and the San Gabriel Valley. For all of us here at CCN, I'm Sunita Joshua Madison. Have a great week. And please take us up on the offer.
We want to make sure that they use thermostats that are programmable, because that helps customers reduce operating costs by having the equipment come on at the desired setting as well as at desired times. Weatherization, plugging up gaps in your walls or door seals, making sure that you don't have any air leaks.
Well, thank you for that information, Dave. Hopefully customers find it helpful. This has been Luna Petty with your CCN Energy Saver.
The CCN Energy Saver is brought to you by Southern California Edison.